Two. Hello, and welcome to the FlowRy Show, a journey through life's tapestry, wisdom for every generation. On this show, we talk about where generations intertwine, sharing stories, insights, and dreams. Whether you are a seasoned sage or a curious young mind, we are all students in the grand classroom of life. Join, join Mike Ryan and I, Nicole Flowers, as we explore a tapestry woven with threads of collaboration, dreams, and lessons learned along the way. Today, we have a very special guest in the studio with us, where we're going to embark on a journey around breaking barriers, confronting ageism in today's society as well as our workplace. So we want to give a special welcome to Randi Lehrman on the FlowRy Show, where we'll be tackling one of the most pervasive yet under-discussed challenges in modern workplaces. And I must say, Randi is quite a Renaissance woman. She is a legal attorney by trade and has transcended not only from employment law, but also helping folks provide better alternative care for elderly loved ones. And what are some of the guardrails around that? Randi had also launched a networking community, which has been transcending across the tri-state area and across the US, where folks from different demographics as well as age groups meet to mingle, talk about their own professional aspirations, their personal development, and just connecting with each other. Randi, welcome to the FlowRy Show. We're so happy to have you join us.
Welcome, Randi. I'll just say that and won't say much more until we have a conversation, but definitely Nicole always has a way of bringing very talented, experienced people that bring more insight and their own journey into our conversation about intergenerational. Now, I guess we have 5 generations that are in the workplace, and what are some of the special opportunities and challenges there. So welcome as well.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure being here, Nicole. Thank you. And Mike, nice to be here as well. So thank you for welcoming me.
So to our viewers, as we had shared, we're going to be tackling a very pervasive topic. And here with us, Randi will explore the stereotypes that limit potential, the ways we should go about, some of the guardrails and best practice we should go about how we engage with each other, the strategies that should be adopted to foster truly inclusive workplaces and social groups where talent thrives at every age. And as Mike alluded to, we're now in a time frame in our society where we have 5 generations still in the workplace, learning from each other, collaborating with each other to bring the right solutions to fix and solve problems. But Randi, let's get right into it. When we think about the rise of ageism, we know there are age-related bias that shows up in countless ways across our society or workforce. And we do recognize, even here on the show, that older workers often face assumptions about their technology savviness, right? And resistance to change. And on the flip side, we have younger professionals battling with the perceptions of inexperience, job hopping, lack of commitment, etc. But just wanted to get your take on what are some of those common age-related stereotypes that you have encountered, and how should we best go about overcoming them?
Sure. Well, in my employment practice, and as you noted, I have an employment practice as well as a practice that deals with nursing home litigation. So we represent, in my other law practice, families who place their loved ones in a nursing home and assisted living. Now, the irony in today's society, and all you have to do is be on social media or TV, it's all about how do we look younger as we age. And it's nonstop. You're constantly getting bombarded. And the reality is, many times we meet people and they look a lot younger than their age actually reflects. And in the workplace, that is an interesting concept, because many times with our employer clients, you know, they'll call us and they're concerned because they have these employees who they may not be that enamored with, but they're concerned because they're over 50, they're over 60, and they're trying to, as you indicated, bring in people from a technological standpoint that are much more with the program. But what we try to explain to our employer clients is that there's so much untapped resources here with, I'm going to use the word older in quotes, because age is not reflective of people anymore. There are people you can meet who are 80 that look 60 that meet 40. So I feel that from a stereotypical standpoint, you know, women on a rocking chair with gray hair at 60, 70, that's not indicative of today's society. And especially in a law firm, if people realized how amazing women, when they're past the childbearing years and their kids are in college, all they got is time to work and be productive. They could be, and they could teach the younger group who are not so, you know, from the social standpoint, if you're not emailing or texting, they don't know how to talk and to emote and just function in today's society. Now, bringing in my Gold Coast, we started because our tagline is connecting people in a personal way in an impersonal world. So as a result of all this technology, younger people, unlike their older counterpoints like myself, don't know how to socialize, don't know how to go out, schmooze, if I may, and just introduce themselves and talk the talk. And everyone can learn from each other and peacefully coexist in any environment. Because again, pulling from my nursing home background, you really don't want to put a loved one in many of the nursing homes. I'm not saying all, but through my travels and through my prosecution of nursing homes in the nursing home litigation world, many of them are not wonderful. And we want to protect the ones that we love. And I feel that people should think long and hard before they just take their loved one and don't do their due diligence and research, because you got to make sure that they're putting them in a safe environment. But again, pulling from your initial question, like you said, the technology issues of the older generation, if I may, and I always counsel potential people who call me, they're concerned about their job security because of the age issue. I tell them, don't verbalize your weaknesses, which is a good thing to do in the business world regardless. If you have Achilles heels, don't tell everybody what those areas are, because that's not going to be a good thing in any respect. I go, learn about it. I'm learning on Audible, AI for Lawyers 2025, because AI is relatively new to me, and I've been a practicing attorney for almost 35 years. So you got to constantly learn and grow as you get older. And of course, weight train, but that's for another. It
sounds like we're going to have a part two.
We're going to have a part two. Exactly. Lifting weights, most important part of aging. But that's, like I said, we should focus on the issue at hand.
I think that you touched upon something, you know, obviously, Nicole does a lot of research and has some questions and stuff like that. And I'm sometimes the one that asks the, off the script questions. And one of that is something that I've heard over the last probably 10, 15 years. And I'm a hey boomer, so I'm guilty of that. It is that, my God, thank God they didn't have Facebook, Instagram, TikTok when we were going to school and stuff like that, or just, living the 16 or 14 to, 25-year-old, life where we're posting everything online, and the impact that has for future employers and are not being employed because they see some, let's be honest. I've seen even my son who just turned 21, some, times when he was having a little bit too much fun, that if someone sees that 10, 15 years from now, unless you're working for yourself, it becomes a liability. And I know you're an attorney, and I don't know if that has ever come up, or, that obviously not your specialty as far as employment law, but that is a fascinating thing that, because of the technology, it magnifies what our previous lives were, our personal lives, right? Because I think there's a blur between professional and personal lives, because we don't turn off the phone at 6 o'clock or 9 to 5, right? We're constantly on. And so I think that, what impact have you seen, if any, that has on the intergenerational differences within the workplace?
Oh, a huge impact. And, and it's all relevant, and it's all, any employer can get all of this information, what you post, and it has impacted it. I've gotten calls where people call me and they're like, I didn't get the job because my employer said that he pulled my social media and saw it. And I'm like, he's allowed. You're putting it for the world to see. And even in a lawsuit, it's, if they find it to be material and necessary, for whatever those reasons are, it will be allowed in. If you have a case where you're claiming you got injured from a car accident, you can't move your left arm, but you have a thing where you're raising your hand at a party holding a beer, bingo, so it's something to really be cognizant of. But you know what? We were all young once. It's really hard to tell people in college, like, don't do that. 10 years from now, you're going to want that job and you're not going to get it because of what you did. But, I'm hoping that as time goes on, people will realize the negative, and they're realizing it, the negative impact of social media, not to all extent, because I enjoy it and it's a way to connect. And for the elderly, it's wonderful. I have two parents, almost 90, almost 85, knock wood. And my mother's on Facebook, and she sees my sons, and it makes her so happy, and she shares with my dad the pictures. So there is positives, but it's like everything else. There's negatives and positives, and hopefully the positives will outweigh the negatives.
Right. Yeah. I as I shared before, my mom will be 95, and not only is she active, thankfully she lives at her house she lived at for the last 40 years or so, but she's very active on iPads, Facebook, all that, and constantly posting stuff. And she was an entrepreneur, but then she worked for an association that forced her to retire at 85. Well, she could have easily still be working. And another thing,
she didn't know me.
Yeah, exactly. So the other thing is, that kind of goes with that is, this generation has lived through COVID, right? That we're in the early formative years, right? When they're in elementary school and whatever. And so for at least 2 or 3 years, they're at home alone. And the impact, my wife's a psychologist, impact that has on, they've said about 60%, if not higher, of students in loneliness. And then you look at the other end, bookend, of people that are over 85 that are, still active, and loneliness. And so I don't know if that is something that shows up, and now we're telling people, come back to work as opposed to working remotely. Because I'm an advocate, now that COVID's over, we're not contagious or whatever, the value of having mentorship, whether in financial services or you're a nurse or whatever, you can't get that. A nurse is not going to be doing this unless you're a telenurse, but you really can't get that where you're networking and you're learning beyond the academic book. So I wonder if you can maybe share some of your thoughts on that.
Oh, I mean, I totally agree with you. I mean, my sons, who were like just graduating college-ish during COVID really impact them professionally, because nobody was hiring. My one son, right when COVID hit, lost his job, and it really impacted. And now they both work from home in their jobs. And one of them, they have to go in 2 days a week. And he's like, this is annoying. I go, annoying. I go, do you know what we used to have to do to get to work and what people... So it's so much for their betterment. And even the practice of law, what I learned from my mentors who taught me, and just being around them and second seating trials and watching and things like, you have to have these kinds of experiences. And the psychological impact of the isolation of being at home, 100%, all, to me, all negative. The only positive from working from home, you know, there are positives, obviously. Like for me, when I work from home, I don't have to pay for transportation, the gas, the public transportation. I can get more work done because it's not taking time out of my day to commute. But overall, I think the negatives outweigh the positives in working home versus going into an office. Agree with you 100%.
Yeah, I would be curious, because I think, you know, you're a lot younger than I, but I think that if you would have someone, you know, counterpoint that was, you know, 25 or whatever, that would, maybe your sons. I've got a 21-year-old, a son that commutes. He's in Beijing right now, right? And I've got a daughter that lives in Paris, and they're constantly computing because one's a professional pilot, but so he cannot be by doing it by video, right? But they would come back, I think, and challenge that as I don't know if you're a millennial or X or probably not a boomer, but it's like, you know,
I'm older than you.
No, I doubt it, but I'm 180.
How about this? I'm 60. Okay, for the good of our podcast, I'm 60 years old, so I think I'm older than you.
Well, I'm 60. I'm 66 in 2 months on the 19th of January. So I got you beat, but thank you for the compliment.
It's all good. Okay.
and Nicole's only 14. No, she's older. She's 18. So
she's little. But you know,
so I think there's always challenges of what we went through, right? And how we project that onto others. I can tell you there's ageism that I had. I was fortunate to have two entrepreneur parents, right? That I knew at the age of 14, I started my first company, but I was biased towards my age, and I went into hospital administration, and I was a CEO at the age of 26. And there was bias towards me because I was managing people that were 10, 20, 30 years older than me. And so I kept weight on to the detriment of my own health. I was 255 pounds, so I have disclosure, right? And I'm only 5'7", 5'8". And so they would call me the boy administrator. But I did that to fight ageism on the other end. So, you know, I'm hypersensitive towards, you know, the ageism and what that has on the workplace, right?
Right.
And the other hand, I am beyond, you know, quote, we got the gold watch at 65, which hopefully you won't get in 5 years, right? Because you're self-employed. But the mentality when we were living.
I don't want a gold watch. Get that with the
job. Yeah, exactly. but the thing is, you know, we are working. My hero is Charlie Munger, and, you know, not because of financial, Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett, not because they're financially, but because they're working it. He's just retired, I think, at Berkshire Hathaway at 95. And Charlie died just a few months short of his 100th birthday and was working. He couldn't see, he couldn't walk and stuff like that, but still working. And I think that's a powerful example of where we are going. I got a grandson that was just born. They say he'll live to 130. Right. So what impact will that have? We'll have 7, 8, 9 generations of people in the workplace when we look back at this video and say, wow, that was easy times. You know?
No, that's a very interesting point. That's a very interesting point.
Yeah.
Randi, give us your thoughts around, as we continue and look forward to the future of work, how can we go about building an age inclusive culture, society? What are some of the things that comes top of mind to allow the different age groups in our workplace, in our society? You talk about family members should be very prudent on their research and before putting loved ones into nursing homes, because not all nursing homes are created equal. and as well as the biases that we have seen and encountered in the workforce. Folks who may be 60 today, they're looking more like 40 because we have better health care, better access to care, and folks are grooming, working out. We talk about the part two when we look at building across the ages.
Gym edition. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So, but share with our listeners, how can we go about building an age inclusive culture, whether in the workforce or in our society at large?
Well, I think in the workforce, the only thing that gets a little tricky is my initial thought was, depending on how big the company is, they should align a young internish new employee with a more seasoned professional. And the young employee can help them from a technological standpoint, which will make them feel good about themselves. And the older, more seasoned could kind of show them the ropes a bit and teach them about how to survive in a company. Because again, pulling from my own children's experiences, listening to them, so-and-so is not that nice and blah, blah, blah. I go, welcome to the world. Like, what do you think? Like, I mean, my God, if I think back as a first year, second year associate, the people were dreadful. Some of them were wonderful, but the point is, like, this is life. Like, it's not always going to be in, my home, do you want some meatballs? Do you want a cookie? So I think that could be a great idea. The only thought is that, like, perhaps, obviously we're going to define them as seasoned as opposed to older, because
mature.
Some people may not want that,
I agree with you. And you are hitting the nail around reverse mentoring, which is, to your point, pairing a younger employees with senior leaders, whether it be for technology and trends, while the senior staff mentors this younger, or I'll call them the early career employee, mentor them on strategy and relationships, which you also alluded to early on in our conversations about the social etiquette in the workplace, and we're losing sense of that. The older seasoned a leader can mentor them around the strategy relationship, and where both can get value from each other, because the younger ones could talk about some of the technologies that they have gotten exposed to and how we can best use certain technologies in the workforce in order to create a more inclusive, where both generations have valuable knowledge to impart to each other. So we agree with you around the importance of reverse mentoring. When we think about mixed age teams, where we intentionally design projects where teams are of diverse age groups, where again different generational perspectives coming to bear, any thoughts on that around innovation and solutions and problem solving? Any thoughts around that from your experience?
I think for all the reasons what we delineated just a few moments ago, I think the technology piece for older people is huge. And, even in my law firm, we changed computer systems and everybody was frozen. And I'm probably the older of, I was like, one of my law firms is not that big. But the thing is, and this is what I would say, a very important thing as we get older is to continually try and learn new things. In 2015, I took the Connecticut bar. So I'm a New York lawyer, but I thought it would be a good idea to get barred in another state. And because I waited, I was practicing, but not enough to get waived in, I had to retake everything. And my brain was forced to learn everything, all these new things that I, wasn't around when I took it. It was the best thing. And it literally blinked. So I would say that also for people in a certain age group, pushing themselves to learn new things, which then ties in to having a younger mentor, in a way, reverse mentorship, teaching them about computer systems and not, one step at a time. Don't like, I don't know how to do this because I never knew it before. That's not a reason not to slow down and just learn how to do things. And just accept that you got to constantly keep learning things and not take out the Marjan chips and the canasta cards and just say to yourself, that's it, I'm done. I mean, a lot of my friends are, I'm not knocking it, but what I'm saying is there's tons of things to do in the world and in life. And just because you're 60 doesn't mean we're on to recreation. There's so many things you can do, whether it be volunteer. And that's, if financially people don't have to work, God bless, but then figure out ways that you can give back because the need is real, right?
Yes.
Real. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Randi, you are dropping so many nuggets and gems. I mean, talk about wisdom from experience and career lessons that matter. Truly, truly. I mean, I'm gathering just around the relationships piece, right? Where relationships outlast transaction. You talk about, hey, as humans, we're here to help, mentor, and treat each other with the courtesy throughout our careers and or just the very aspects of our lives, being which is the most valuable aspect of our lives, is relationship, right? And here you start talking about, hey, it's more than just what are we getting in that moment. It's the purpose that fuels the longevity. It's connecting your work to a much bigger purpose and impacting all those around us, as you have done, not only through your two law practices, but also through your social connections, very specifically Gold Coast Connect, where you have built powerful networks and giving folks the opportunity to come and engage, interact, expand. I think you said it very well. It's about the effective networking. Isn't about just collecting contacts, right? It's generally building and cultivating relationships that offering value and creating that mutual support for each other. Randi, it has been a pleasure having you on the FlowRy Show.
Well, thank
Share
you.
with us a few final parting words before we let you go. This has been just a gem.
A few parting words from my standpoint.
Yes, absolutely. I think you have worlds of wisdom here.
Words of wisdom. I would say that, to your point about really focusing on ways that we can bridge the gap between the different age groups, whether it's in the workplace or from a social standpoint, connection is really the key here. And whether you're connecting at work or whether you're connecting in a social environment, you're connecting and you're not in your home on your device. You're actually engaging in interpersonal relationships, because the interpersonal relationships is what's going to fuel every aspect of your being. And and that's the reality. They find the people are the most happy are the people that figure out ways to give back and to helping other people. It's not the people who make millions upon millions of dollars. I'm not saying those people may not be happy. I'm not taking away from that. But it's really knowing that you've made a difference, and whatever that difference might be. And whether it's you have a new worker who comes aboard your company and they're new, they just graduated college, and you see them and they look nervous, you take them in, and then you learn, oh my God, can you help me with my phone? It broke, it froze. And within 1 second, they're unfreezing it. And you form this bond in this relationship you're never going to forget. I'm never going to forget this young court officer. When I went into court one day, my phone froze. My son just landed. He was going, with abroad, the semester abroad. I was freaking out. And he's like, all you have to do. And I see him in court to this day. And I'm like, I will never forget you. But, weird little relationships with people,
Yeah, I think that extraordinary kind of what you just said, because and again, I have a Gen Z and I've got 2 millennials, but one of the as children, one of the things that is concerning with we hear in the workplace is AI and how that will replace everyone or whatever, right? So as a off the spectrum, but we are human beings. We are not robots. And if you're constantly doing this and whatever, and I'm guilty of taking too many photos of the world, but if we don't learn how to interact and have that human touch, and then it becomes very easy to discount the human because we don't have the relationship or the connection that you had with a court person, and then it's like, okay, we just totally disregard the human interaction and the connection, and that takes us to a place where we become Wally on the ship.
Yeah, exactly.
And don't lift weights, and that's another discussion.
That's for part 2. Part 2 for mine and Nicole's ins and outs of navigating the gym. Exactly. That's right.
It's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure.
To our audience, the workplaces of the future will be defined by how well we bridge generational divides. Starting today, as Randi had shared with us so eloquently, organizations that embrace age diversity, challenge stereotypes, and create truly inclusive cultures will access the full spectrum of talent and perspectives. Sharing your stories creates a bridge between generations. It allows us to connect on a deeper level where we learn from each other, experiences, and foster understanding. Thank you for joining with us today on the FlowRy Show as we navigate the tapestry of life. Remember that every chapter offers new lessons, opportunities, and connections. Let's embrace the journey, cherish the moments, and continue to learn, grow, and inspire. Randi, it was such a pleasure having you.
Pleasure. Thank you.
We look forward to part 2.
Thank you.
The sequel.
The sequel.